Can you read the quote once more?
That most men live lives of quiet desperation. It's one of my favorite quotes ever because it's true. And I've been that guy. You're just in this world where you just can't wait to just run away. The way you can change is you have to put aside enough money to give yourself a window. And then you have to have a plan. And you have to spend all your waking hours outside of whatever shit job you do planning your escape. And you have to come to the realization very clearly that you fucked up and you got yourself stuck. So whatever you're doing, you have to do it like your life depends on it.
The more conscious you become, the more desperate you feel. And this sentence is not a provocation. It is not a pessimistic phrase meant to sound deep. It is an observation, a lived experience, a truth many people feel, but very few dare to say out loud. At first, consciousness feels like light. You believe that by understanding the world better, by understanding others better, by understanding yourself better, you will finally find peace. You think clarity will save you. But no one warns you that this light also illuminates what you would rather never have seen. When you become conscious, you start to see the cracks in the world, in relationships, in systems, in ideals, and above all, within yourself. You can no longer pretend. You can no longer hide behind simple explanations. You can no longer take refuge in collective lies that reassure everyone. Consciousness removes the filters. It removes the illusions, and what you discover behind them is not always beautiful. Before, you lived without asking too many questions. You followed the flow. You accepted the rules. You believed in promises. You thought everything had a clear meaning, a logical direction. But the more conscious you become, the more you realize that many things rest on chance, on absurdity, on fear, on the need for control. And this realization hurts, because a conscious mind cannot ignore what it knows. It can no longer distract itself in the same way. It can no longer laugh freely without an afterthought. It can no longer believe without doubt. It can no longer love without seeing the flaws. It can no longer live lightly without feeling the weight of existence. So yes, the more conscious you are, the more desperate you become. Not because you are weak, but because you see clearly. You see that many people are not really living. They are surviving. They repeat. They imitate. They play roles. They follow scripts they never wrote, and they call it a normal life. But when you are conscious, you see the machinery behind it. You see that many people smile out of habit, with that many love out of fear, that many work without meaning, that many speak without ever truly saying what they feel. And this clarity creates a gap, a distance, an inner solitude. You can be surrounded and still feel alone, not because no one is there, but because very few people truly understand you. Very few people see what you see. Very few people feel what you feel. When you speak about depth, you are answered with trivialities. When you ask existential questions, you are told to stop overthinking. When you refuse superficiality, you are called pessimistic or complicated. But you are not pessimistic. You are conscious. And consciousness is disturbing because it prevents comfortable sleep. The truth is that ignorance protects. It numbs. It simplifies. It reassures. Consciousness, on the other hand, exposes. It strips things bare. It forces you to face what many prefer to avoid. And this confrontation with reality can lead to despair. Because one day, you understand that life has no predefined meaning, that nothing is guaranteed, that good is not always rewarded, that injustice exists independently of morality, that death is inevitable, that time destroys everything. And this realization is not a philosophical theory. It is an inner experience, a fracture. Before, you believed everything would work out. Now you know it might not. Before, you believed being a good person was enough. Now, you see that the world does not work that way. Before, you thought understanding would bring happiness. Now you understand that understanding brings clarity, and that clarity is heavy to carry. That is why many intelligent, sensitive, conscious people suffer more. Not because they are weak, but because they perceive more. They anticipate. They analyze. They feel contradictions. They see long-term consequences. They hear what is not said. They sense hypocrisy. And their mind never truly rests. So sometimes despair settles in. Not a loud despair, but a silent one. Calm. Deep. The kind that does not scream, but weighs heavily. The kind that is invisible, but exhausts the soul. The kind that makes you ask, what's the point? Why continue? What is the meaning of all this? But what few people understand is that this despair is not the end. It is a stage. a necessary passage for those who no longer want to live in illusion, a rite of transformation. Because there are two kinds of despair, the one that destroys and the one that awakens, the one that paralyzes and the one that forces you to rebuild differently. The despair born of consciousness is not here to annihilate you. It is here to strip away what is false, what is not truly you, what exists only through illusion. When you go through this despair, you are forced to make a choice. Either you go back to sleep, you return to distraction, to superficiality, to noise, or you accept reality as it is, without decoration, without promises, without illusion, and you decide, despite everything, to live. Not because life is easy, but because you choose to give it value. This is where true strength begins. Not naive optimism, not toxic positivity, but lucid strength. A calm strength. A strength that knows life is hard, unfair, sometimes absurd, and keeps going anyway. The Stoics knew it. Existential philosophers knew it. Deep minds have always known it. Consciousness does not bring easy happiness. It brings responsibility. The responsibility to create meaning where there is none. The responsibility to remain dignified in a chaotic world. The responsibility to act according to your values, even when nothing guarantees the outcome. So yes, the more conscious you are, the more desperate you become. But this despair is the price of awakening. And this price, as heavy as it may be, is still better than the comfort of illusion. If you feel this weight, if you recognize yourself in these words, know this: you are not broken. You are not weak. You are not lost. You have simply gone further than average. You have seen behind the curtain. And once you have seen, you cannot pretend anymore. Consciousness hurts, but it is also the only path to an authentic life. A chosen life. An assumed life. A life lived with clarity, courage, and depth. And sometimes continuing despite despair is already a form of victory.